the feeling and the emotion and what Lily was experiencing in each of those scenes as it relates to the book.
There has been a lot of discussion about certain behind-the-scenes moments, including claims that Blake Lively at times appeared to take on roles that should not have been hers, such as acting like an intimacy coordinator during scenes, which raised concerns since trained professionals are typically hired for that purpose. Some clips circulating online, including on Instagram, showed her demonstrating to Justin Baldoni how to perform certain romantic movements, sparking debate about professional boundaries on set. While romance is an important part of storytelling, many believe it should always be handled within proper guidelines. Recently, attention has shifted back to the ongoing legal battle involving Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, particularly after a major court development. A judge issued a detailed and strongly worded order that significantly reduced the scope of Lively's lawsuit, leaving only a small portion of claims intact. Earlier, some of Baldoni's claims had been dismissed while a few contract-related disputes remained open. And now a similar situation has unfolded here, with the case largely narrowed down to contractual disagreements and a limited number of retaliation claims. The judge's reasoning focused heavily on Lively's status, determining that she functioned as an independent contractor rather than an employee, which is crucial because workplace-related claims such as sexual harassment typically require an employer-employee relationship. Since such claims are tied to power dynamics and control in a workplace setting, the judge concluded that Lively held significant, if not equal, control in the situation, which undermined the legal basis of her allegations. As a result, most of the harassment claims were dismissed without directly addressing their truth, while only a couple of retaliation-related issues remain under consideration. This ruling has been seen as a major win for Baldoni and the other defendants, who have consistently maintained their innocence. Their legal team emphasized that from the beginning, they chose to rely on transparency by sharing messages and documents they believe support their case, insisting that no harassment occurred and describing their clients as individuals who have been unfairly accused. The defense emphasized that their clients deserved a strong and transparent legal response, expressing satisfaction that the court's ruling aligned with what they had maintained from the very beginning. Additional statements from attorneys Alexandra Shapiro and Jonathan Batch confirmed their approval of the decision, noting that all harassment claims and every allegation against the individual defendants, including Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, Melissa Nathan, and Jennifer Abel, had been dismissed after what they described as a careful judicial review of extensive evidence and legal arguments. They added that what remains is a much narrower case, and they are prepared to continue defending against the remaining claims in court. On the other side, Blake Lively's legal team responded by maintaining that the case is always centered on alleged retaliation and reputational harm, arguing that she faced coordinated efforts to damage her standing after raising concerns about on-set safety, and stating that she intends to testify and continue highlighting what they describe as retaliatory actions. Despite these opposing narratives, the court's ruling itself was extensive and detailed, with a key focus on Lively's professional status. The judge relied heavily on evidence, including her own statements, to determine that she functioned as an independent contractor rather than an employee, which is crucial because protections under laws like Title VII depend on an employer-employee relationship. In explaining this, the court described Lively as a highly skilled artist who contributed to a single project with significant negotiating power, approval rights, and creative influence far beyond that of a typical employee. She was involved in major decisions such as hiring and firing assistants, negotiating filming, logistics, rewriting parts of the script, overseeing editors, coordinating with department heads in the studio, and shaping the film's overall production, marketing, and release. She also had the financial independence to walk away from the project, with compensation tied partly to the film's success, further reinforcing her non-employee status. The judge concluded that this level of authority and autonomy meant she was not subject to the type of control required to bring workplace harassment claims under Title VII or related laws, allowing the court to dismiss those claims without ruling on whether the alleged conduct met the legal threshold. While some retaliation-related claims remain, the court clarified that such claims rely on the plaintiff's belief rather than proving that the alleged behavior legally constituted harassment, and it avoided making a determination on that issue. Additionally, certain claims under state law were dismissed because the alleged conduct was not sufficiently connected to the relevant jurisdiction, further narrowing the scope of the case. Moving forward, the only reason the retaliation claims under California law were allowed to proceed is that Blake Lively's team presented arguments that could potentially connect parts of the case to California, although the judge also noted that the defense could revisit certain issues such as aiding and abetting claims which were denied without prejudice, leaving the door open for future challenges. Overall, however, the case has been significantly narrowed, particularly on the contractual side. since the judge determined that the only enforceable agreement was the 17-point contract, which includes specific provisions related to retaliation, allowing a limited contract claim to move forward while dismissing others tied to agreements he found This also led to the dismissal of broader California employment law claims, including those related to alleged harassment, largely because her status as an independent contractor disqualified her from bringing such claims. When addressing the remaining issues, the judge acknowledged that some allegations could be considered triable, meaning they involve disputed facts that cannot be resolved at this stage and would instead need to be decided by a jury, which is common in retaliation cases where subjective belief plays a central role. He noted that while the alleged incidents may not meet the legal threshold for harassment, there is evidence suggesting that Lively believed they did, and under the law, that subjective belief can be enough to sustain certain retaliation claims for now. At the same time, the judge carefully examined several of the specific allegations and found that many did not support a hostile work environment claim. For example, a conversation about circumcision that Lively found uncomfortable occurred before filming began and within a broader personal discussion, meaning it could not legally contribute to a workplace claim. Similarly, disputes over intimate or explicit scenes in the screenplay were framed as creative differences rather than discriminatory conduct, with the court emphasizing that discussions of adult themes are expected in film production and do not, on their own, create a hostile environment. Drawing on legal precedent, the judge explained that actors working with sensitive or explicit material would reasonably understand such content as part of the performance and creative process, not as evidence of gender-based hostility. He further pointed out that both sides contributed ideas to the script, including material that the other may have found objectionable, reinforcing the conclusion that these disagreements were rooted in creative collaboration rather than discrimination. Even claims related to alleged inappropriate comments or criticisms, including those interpreted as body-related remarks, were found insufficient to meet the legal standard for harassment, especially when considered in context, such as the timing shortly after Lively had given birth. Overall, the court's analysis reframed many of the accusations as either outside the scope of employment law or part of normal creative and professional interactions, leaving only a narrow set of issues primarily centered on retaliation and contract terms to potentially be resolved at trial. The judge's analysis of the remaining claims shows just how narrowly the case has been reduced, with most allegations dismissed and only a few retaliation-related issues left to be decided, largely because they involve disputed facts that a jury, not the court, must evaluate. In reviewing the various accusations, the court found that many of the incidents cited by Blake Lively did not meet the legal threshold for harassment, particularly when placed in context. For example, concerns about weight-related comments were undermined by evidence that Lively herself emphasized the importance of achieving a certain physical look for the film and took active steps toward that goal, making it difficult to interpret related discussions as discriminatory based on gender. Similarly, creative disagreements such as those involving script changes, intimate scenes, or choreography during filming were framed as part of the normal artistic process rather than evidence of a hostile work environment. In the case of the dance scene with Justin Baldoni, the court noted that the actions occurred during filming, in front of others, and appeared to be part of character, performance, and improvisation, which made it unreasonable to view them as gender-based hostility when considered in isolation. However, the judge did acknowledge that certain incidents, when viewed collectively and in the light most favorable to Lively, could potentially be interpreted by a jury as contributing to a perception of a hostile environment, even if they are not ultimately proven to meet that standard. This distinction is important because the court emphasized that it is not deciding whether the alleged conduct actually constituted harassment, only whether Lively could have reasonably believed that it did, which is enough for limited retaliation claims to proceed. On the issue of the alleged digital campaign, the court pointed out that there is significant disagreement between the parties about what actually occurred, including whether any coordinated effort was made to damage Lively's reputation, and because of this factual dispute, the matter is appropriate for a jury to resolve. At the same time, the judge made clear that many of the actions cited, such as hiring public relations professionals or engaging in media strategy, are not inherently unlawful, though a small number of specific instances could potentially be scrutinized further if proven to cross certain lines. Ultimately, the ruling leaves only a handful of claims moving forward: limited retaliation claims under California law against the production entities and a single contract-related claim. While all claims against individual defendants, including Baldoni and others involved in the production, have been dismissed, the court also rejected claims related to defamation, conspiracy, and broader employment law violations, finding insufficient legal basis for them. As a result, what began as a wide-ranging lawsuit has now been reduced to a much smaller case focused on whether certain actions could be interpreted as retaliation, and even those remaining claims will depend heavily on credibility, evidence, and how a jury interprets the disputed facts if the case proceeds to trial.